Welcome to Living Well with MS Coffee Break. I'm your host Jeff Alex. We decided to do something a little different in expanding the range of content we produce here at Living Well with MS. Since our community forms the beating heart of overcoming MS, we are commencing this special series called Coffee Break, which features short interviews with members of the OMS community talking about their personal journeys adopting and staying on the OMS 7-step recovery program, the challenges they encountered and how they overcame them, and their tips and tricks for sticking to the path that leads to better health. We hope you enjoy and learn from these brief chats between our regular episodes, and as always, your comments and suggestions are welcome by emailing podcast@overcomingms.org. That's podcast@overcomingms.org. And don't forget, if you enjoy these and other Living Well with MS podcast episodes, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts or your favourite podcast listening platform. Joining us on this episode of the Living Well with MS Coffee Break is Alex Storey. Welcome, Alex.
Thank you. Nice to be on here.
Thank you. Could you tell us a bit about yourself, your family, your life, where you live, and anything about yourself that you'd like to share with us?
So I'm 35. I live in Essex, which is just outside of London. And I live with my husband, Sam, and my dog, Elsa. And I work in the financial services. I was commuting into London, but obviously with coronavirus, I'm working from home a lot now. So.
Okay, and when were you diagnosed with MS, and how long have you been following the OMS program?
It's a bit complicated how I got diagnosed with MS. I got diagnosed in 2019. They thought it was MS in the April, but then they had to rule a lot of things out, so I didn't get the official diagnosis until end of June 2019. My symptoms started back in October 2018. My toes went numb when I was on holiday, and I thought it was something to do with the shoes I'd been wearing for work the week before. But by the end of the 2-week holiday, the numbness had spread kind of in the inside of my feet, and then over the next 6 weeks, the numbness just continued to spread up my legs. So I ended up going to the GP because I'd been having problems with my chair at work. They just put it down to lower back pain and a trapped nerve, gave me some anti-inflammatories, and then I was back at the doctor's 10 days later because it had spread almost to my waist. So they then put me into A&E, did an emergency MRI. Nothing came up. I saw a neurologist at that point who, I wouldn't wish him on anyone. He took that I had anxiety. And I, at this point, said that my aunt had MS, and he just laughed at me and said, did I know what MS was? Because if I had MS, I'd be presenting, but I would be much worse, and I wouldn't be presenting parallel. So then I spent another, how many months? I mean, that was the November. I spent until the March, when I was then put into hospital again, because my foot started to drop. But the numbness had been spreading all this time up almost to my shoulders. And they did an MRI of my brain, and it came out that I had lesions on my brain. They had to do another one as well of my neck, and then they found some lesions on the cervical spine as well. But it was a complicated process. I wouldn't wish it on anyone because I spent months thinking, is it just anxiety? Is it just me creating all these symptoms? And then it was just utter relief, to be honest, when I was in hospital in the March. And it was confirmed that, yeah, I had oglonial bands found in my lumbar puncture. It was just an absolute relief to find out that, yeah, I hadn't been making this all up. And Oh, it's quite a confusing story, isn't it? Sorry, Jess.
No, that's all right. I mean, personally, I think that I think it confuses people who haven't got MS when we sometimes say it's a relief. But when you've got these symptoms, and then you start to think, what else could it be?
Yeah.
And then that can be really worrying, and you start thinking it could be, inoperable brain cancer, or it could be, there's countless things it could be. So in actual fact, having this thing where you've had these weird symptoms probably for years, and having it defined as an actual thing, because I went through the same, and it was sort of doctors saying, no, it's not, that's due to a trapped nerve, that's due to back problems, that's due to this, that's due to that, and you think, blimey, I'm getting lots of things going wrong with me. And then you start to worry, and actually having a thing, I know it's not a good thing, but it's at least something to think, well, okay, I know what it is now, and then I can know how that can be managed. Can come as a relief.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, when I got told it was relapsing remitting MS rather than NMO, which they had to rule out during that April to June period, we went out for a celebratory drink. I mean, who goes out to celebrate when they're diagnosed with MS? But yeah. Yeah, it was a funny old time. I spent an awful lot of time on the internet thinking, blimey, could I really have created these symptoms just through anxiety? And it was only after talking to a friend who suffered with anxiety really, really badly for many years that I just thought, I don't think like her at all. I've got a much more optimistic outlook. I overcome things a lot quicker than she does. How on earth could I have done this to myself? And I was kind of Googling what part of the nerve, if you like, because I couldn't sense any vibration. So I was looking at what part of the nerve senses vibration, what illnesses could affect the sense of vibration and things. I mean, I really probably wouldn't recommend doing too much research on Google, but for me, I needed to do it to kind of prove to myself that I wasn't going mad. And when I thought, yeah, I think that this could possibly be MS, but where the doctors were still kind of saying it was anxiety, I looked at my aunt. I have to say I'm not particularly close with my aunt, but I knew that she'd gone onto a vegetarian diet as soon as she got diagnosed about 12 years previously. And she hadn't had any relapse that I'd known of. So I just Googled vegetarian diet, MS, and OMS was one of the first things that came up. And so because I wasn't getting any help from anyone at that point, and I just needed to do something to make myself feel like I was helping myself, I started the RRMS program. So that was in the spring 2019. And then I felt very, very good at myself when it got to the March, and it was like not completely confirmed, but it definitely, like, there was a suggestion that it was MS. It made me feel a lot better that yes, I'd started it early. I did know what I was talking about, if you like, and yes, so I was quite early on in. I hadn't even been diagnosed and I started RMS just because I really needed to try and help myself.
Yeah, okay. That's a similar story to me, because I think it's probably the NHS in the UK is great at some things and not so good at others. And one of the problems is that it can take quite a long time to get diagnosed with things. And I had a very similar story. It took ages to get diagnosed. Went out to Google. My wife actually discovered OMS, and then I was on OMS actually before I was technically. I was told I almost certainly had MS, but I needed to have all these tests done, so it was a bit more of a certainty for me. But still, I got no treatment or help because I didn't officially have it. So all you have is Google, and so then I started OMS when I found out about it because I wanted to do something, like you say. I first came across you as Hidden Story on Instagram, where you post lots of cooking ideas. for people with RRMS. So you're quite a creative chef. And could you share a bit about your culinary pastime and what that means to you, and how that might have helped you with MS and RMS?
I've got quite a creative side to me. I've got an MA in design, and even though I've been working in financial services, when I've come home on an evening, like, cooking has been my creative escape. You know, it's something I need to do. We need to eat in the evening, but I've always liked to try and be experimental and creative with what we're eating. So when it came to the RMS diet, the diet section of the program, I just started to kind of go slightly crazy. It just unleashed my creativity, kind of think, okay, right. So I've got these kind of constraints. I obviously, like with the oils, no meat, no dairy. Just what things can I make that are reminiscent of what I used to have? So Deliciously Ella, for instance, she's someone that you always associate with being a vegan cook. But I find that a lot of the food is quite sweet. She uses quite a lot of spices and things, and
she's quite obsessed with coconut as well, isn't she?
Oh, she is, coconut and avocados, and I just didn't want it to all be my cooking to all be about that. I wanted to kind of think, okay, we can have like a traditional tasting meal, like your toad in the hole or bubble and squeak, but make it vegan, but make it not feel like it's vegan. Do you understand what I'm saying there?
Yeah, no, I mean, cooking was something that my brother was a chef, and so there's always been sort of a lot of cooking around, and it is one of those things. There was a few key things that I really wanted to work out. So like a Cornish pasty was one of them. How I could make a Cornish pasty became a bit of an obsession for a while.
Have you managed it?
Yeah, it's in the RMS cookbook.
Is it? Oh, I'm going to have a look at this.
And there were a few. I think I've got 4 recipes in there.
Okay.
Because there were a few key things. There's some things which people think, well, how would you do that, like roast dinner? But actually, I don't have a problem with roast dinners because I just do a tray of roasted veg, and then I kind of have that as instead of the meat part, and then you can do roast potatoes in an RMS friendly way. So you can kind of, that's not a big issue. If I'm not worried about the meat, I just have lots of vegetables, and that doesn't worry me at all. But there are some meals that are some meals are impossible, but there's a lot of meals which are, you just think, okay, how would that work with things like without frying, for example, or how could I make that work without that meat element, or would fish work instead, and things like that. So I completely understand.
Because obviously, like with OMS, you bake a lot more, or I find that I'm baking a lot more now. I've recently got myself an oil sprayer, and it's spraying a very small amount of olive oil over the top of the meals, but it definitely gives that nice goldenness to things that you might not have gotten if you just put it in the oven without any kind of oil on top at all. You know what I mean? It makes it feel a little bit more like your traditional cooking.
Gives it that sort of crunch of. I think Jack McNulty on previous episode, there was a science behind it, which he sort of explained. But that sort of crisping on the outside, or sort of caramelizing.
Yeah, it's like sometimes like I made cold cannon last night. I make it with anchovies rather than bacon. As Nigella says, anchovies are the bacon of the sea. So they give that really nice depth of flavour. But I sprayed the oil over the top, and where I haven't done that in the past, where I haven't had my oil sprayer, it's ended up looking kind of quite dark brown on top. But last night it was just lovely and golden because it did have that little bit on top, but it's just knowing that you only need a very small amount, but it can really make the difference and make you think, yes, I'm eating more of how maybe I would have eaten in the past. But it doesn't make it feel as if it's too far away from what you're eating in the past.
Yeah, and if it's extra virgin olive oil and you're not frying it, you're baking it, then it's fine, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
So this is being recorded in what's now the second wave in the UK of the COVID-19 or coronavirus pandemic. So that's obviously had some effects on your lifestyle. So how have you had to adapt your habits, your diet, exercise, mindfulness, and so on, to match the realities imposed by COVID-19?
If I'm really honest with you, I don't feel the lockdowns have impacted me that much. I've still been recovering from my relapses last year. So it doesn't feel that much different. You know, I'm spending a lot of time still at home. What is nice for me in a way is that my husband's now here with me rather than having to do a 2-hour commute either way to where he was working. I have made more of an effort to really push myself on the exercise front, and because everyone was talking about couch to 5K, the beginning of lockdown and you know, getting themselves out there. I've started doing the couch to 5K. It's taken me a long time, but I'm really pleased at how I am progressing with it, because I wrote a list about this time last year of 100 things I wanted, and one of them was to be able to run 5K along the seafront near where we live, and I'm doing that now. So it feels really nice that I've achieved that, and also I suppose having MS, doing the OMS program, having read Dr. Janik's book, you need to kind of just accept life and just get on with things and enjoy being in the moment and enjoy what you're able to do today. And because I've been having that mentality, and my husband's got that mentality a bit now as well. We were meant to get married in September this year. We were meant to have like a big wedding, 100 to 150 people. We weren't sure what was going to happen, but we could still have the church for the date in September when we were meant to be getting married. And we thought, well, hang on, look, it's looking like we're going to be allowed 30 guests. Let's try and make this work for September. And we had to arrange things in a very different way to what we had originally intended, like have a picnic reception in the park and then do a pub quiz, kind of in an outside terraced area in the evening. But we managed it. We managed to get married.
Oh, and by the way, congratulations. That's brilliant
Thank
news.
you very much. The only thing that was really stressing me out with the wedding was I'd set myself the target of making our cake. And I'd had my gran and my mum testing out kind of OMS friendly sponges that I'd been devising, and they weren't the nicest about it, and in the end I ended up having to do like a Mary Berry sponge for everyone else, and then doing like a little sponge for me on top. That was a vegan one, but yeah, it was really nice. Everyone that went kind of was saying what they're going to remember it. It was an unusual little day, if you like, and we just wanted to kind of get everyone together. That meant an awful lot to us, for everyone to have some good food and some good drink, and for us all to just remember having a nice bright day, if you like, in the middle of this very, very strange year. And it didn't matter if it wasn't all perfect. You know, we can have a big do with everyone that we were going to invite. At another point, we could have a big party on the anniversary. But yes, being part of the OMS program, and just accepting things, and just nothing. I think having OMS has made me kind of realize things don't have to be perfect. Do you know what I mean? I shouldn't be aiming for perfectionism all the time, because it stresses you out. Nothing can be perfect all the time. You just got to go out and have fun and enjoy yourself and enjoy being in the company of those people that love you. You just don't know when things can get taken away from you.
So what are the reasons that you are going to support OMS for the Giving Tuesday campaign?
My experience of OMS over the past year since I've been diagnosed, they've given me so much hope. It's given me the belief that I can get better by making lifestyle changes. And it's given me so much optimism for the future. And my mum as well. We both went to the OMS Edinburgh conference in June 2019, and we both came away from there thinking, yeah, we've got this. we can deal with this. We can deal with me having MS, and it doesn't need to be a terrifying diagnosis that it could have been.
Okay, and so if anyone wants to, it's quite easy to find Giving Tuesday, searching for it, and you can put OMS as a charity you're supporting, which would be great for OMS. Yes. And do you have any other tips or tricks that you could share with our audience that could help them on their health journey?
I would say one of the biggest things for me has been connecting with other people in the MS community over the past year. I've made some really good friends now. I was very open about my diagnosis right from the start, and it's meant that people have said, oh, I know so-and-so that's got MS. Do you want me to see whether you can meet them for a coffee? And so all those opportunities, I have gone along and I've connected with fellow people who have got MS, and it's been so helpful. It's really made me think, yeah, it's fine. I've got a lot of support. Every time like something's not feeling quite right, I've got someone to talk things through. It's just made it so much easier. I would just say get out there and talk to fellow MS.
And there's the OMS Circles program, so there's a community of OMSers around the world that have groups meet up, or not meet up in person at the moment, but at least virtually meet up. Say,
I've met a lot of people following OMS through Instagram, using the hashtags on Instagram, like OMS friendly, overcoming MS, overcoming multiple sclerosis. People are using those hashtags all the time, and you kind of get to see people that might be the same age group as you, might be going through a similar thing as you, that are following the diet or trying their best to follow the diet and the program, and it's been a great way of connecting with people.
Okay, thank you for that, and thank you very much for joining us on the OMS MS Coffee Break, Alex Storey.
Thank you for having me.